Welcome, fight fans, back once again. Another edition of Boxing Chit. Myself here, Joshua, along with Boz, holding it down. What's going on, Boz? How are you?
Yeah, I'm a bit tired, but rather fine otherwise. Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna keep it short and sweet, if capable. Of course,
yeah,
you never know how things go. But anyway, big action of week, big boxing weekend. A lot of great action that took place. We had a number of fights. And one of those situations where I always hate it when you have great fights or good fights that are running parallel on multiple different stations. So therefore, you have to try and figure out how to watch each one. And actually, I was
yeah.
trying to score via Fight Night Scores, fight-score.com, and eventually I just stopped because I was like, you know what, I can't properly watch and score while I have these three varying means up for which I'm trying to watch
Mm.
boxing. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's tough, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Insane thing. So yeah, for those that don't know, it was the Zone, Showtime, and ESPN. At one point, all three were on with fights. But that's the name of the game, I guess. Name of the
Mm.
game. But anyway, one of the things I wanted to start with, as a matter of fact, is the Showtime card because we saw a mega knockout, a mega upset, and that was Brian Mendoza taking on Sebastian Fundora. And there was an interim title on the line at 154 pounds. It's 100, so that's junior middleweight, or yeah, so junior middleweight
Yeah,
or light middleweight. It was a WBC interim world light middleweight championship that was on the line, and it ended via seventh round KO in favor of Mendoza, who sent down the towering Inferno, and it was a vicious KO
mm.
combination that had him down flat on his back, head popping off of the canvas, him unable to get up. And I like Fundora. Of course, I've done a video on Fundora. And so to see him go down in that fashion, it was timber because he is
Yeah,
6'6" at junior middleweight, and he is such a sight to see. He doesn't fight long and lean as we were talking about, and that came and bit him in the butt right here. As a matter of fact, he got caught with a nice left hook that opened him up
yeah,
and staggered him. He almost went down, but the fact that he didn't go down made it even more vicious because the follow-on combination by Mendoza was what really
yeah.
did him in. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, that was one hell of a left hook or uppercut, whatever it was, and you could see, he was totally shaken, and he was, I think, well, maybe even if the other two punches hadn't landed, I would think eventually he would go down, and yeah, probably,
Yeah,
but he didn't at once, and and I guess he deserves credit for that. But then you saw when he was on the canvas, he got up or halfway, but he you saw it on his face. He was like he knew it. He wasn't getting up. He was sad. That's kind of sad to see. But yeah, I hope he will be able to bounce back. And he did sound optimistic after the fight. He was like,
yeah.
I'm still gonna take over the division. I'll be back, and that's good. Very
Yeah,
good
yeah,
to
you gotta
see.
gotta have your head up, screwed on right. Shout out to
Yeah.
Rodolfo Rivera Jr. Says, "Sup,
Hey,
y'all? Appreciate having you drop by, Rodolfo. Good to have you in here
Rodolfo.
always. Great dialogue, great chatting." Rodolfo Rivera says, "A load of boxing we had yesterday was hard keeping up with all the fights." Indeed, it
Yeah,
was, my friend. We were just mentioning that, and the fact that three of the shows or the three shows were running parallel to each other at one point, so it made it tough. I couldn't even score
mm,
the fights in the same way that I wanted to because of such, because I was trying to bounce back from my MacBook to my TV screen to my phone, etc. It was just a mix of all that. But
three
I'm always happy to have
stations
it.
going on.
Yeah, right. I'm always happy to have a lot of boxing going on, but man, if the times were staggered, that would be even better. But yeah,
Yes.
crazy night for sure. We were talking about Fundora going down. Down goes Fundora with the excellent
Yeah.
combination from Brian Mendoza, who came into
Yeah.
the fight with probably limited expectations as far as whether or not he would win the matchup, and
Hmm.
he really upset the apple cart. And I think
He
a
did.
lot of people probably didn't expect him to get the victory in the way that he did. And
No,
Fundora was winning the fight up to that point,
right.
and it was just a matter of him getting caught. Which, of course, if you've seen Fundora fight, then you know he fights on the inside, regardless of him being lean and
Hmm.
long. And he ended up he
Maybe.
suffered the consequences at this particular point, something that many probably had envisioned at some point happening. Probably didn't think we probably didn't think it would happen right here in this particular fight, but he suffered the consequences in a major way, and it's a
Yeah.
setback. We'll see what he's doing for the comeback.
And the left hook is probably the worst punch to get caught flush with, right? The left hook, how devastating it can be. And I actually didn't see, I mean, I didn't really know much of Mendoza before this, but I
Yeah,
definitely didn't see him winning, especially not in this fashion, of course. I did see he had some knockouts, but they were against, some not that great fighters anyway. But
yeah,
yeah, he proved to us that he can really punch, and he's not to be taken lightly. But yeah, maybe now Fundora will have to kind of change his style a little bit. He will have to be on the outside a little more from now on, I
yeah,
say, because also against Erickson Lubin, he was down. Also, he was caught
yeah. That
big,
is true.
but that was maybe by a right hand, I believe, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It might have been, but
So maybe he's a little less vulnerable to the right hand than to the left. I don't know, maybe, or
yeah,
maybe
that was a
this was
nice
just
one right there, and he didn't
yeah,
see it coming. You could tell he
yeah,
did not see it at all, and those are the worst
yeah,
kinds to take.
yeah. That's something really natural when a much taller fighter faces a short guy who can hit also, and it can happen pretty easily.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. And Mendoza, as you mentioned, not extremely herald coming in. Now he had lost to Jesus Ramos, who looks fairly promising. He just beat Joey Spencer, just absolutely outboxed him in a way that Spencer looked pedestrian and average. But
Yeah,
Jesus Ramos, he had to defeat to him as well as a fighter by the name of Larry Gomez, who I don't know. But he also stopped or knocked out Jason Rosario in his last fight. He does also have a
yeah,
win over
that's right.
Thomas Lamana. So those
Yeah,
are
yeah.
probably the two name wins he had to this point,
Mm.
which
Yeah,
is
Hasten. Yeah, that's the guy who knocked out. And I believe that guy Thomas Lavano. I have actually met him on in a Facebook group. I think that was him actually.
oh
That
yeah,
it
you
was.
probably yeah
Yeah,
probably.
I know that's because I was mentioning his last name. Reminded me of a Sopranos character, Lamana
Good to
Peach.
go. Good to go.
So yeah, that was
Cool.
funny.
Yeah, he's been around a little while, and he's been in there with some guys, lost a few fights and all. So decent name to have on a resume. And of course, Banana, who
Yeah.
certainly has had his troubles here as of late. I don't know if it's
Mm.
the weight or
Yeah,
whatever, but yeah, he had a great win over Julian Williams, and then from there seems like been downhill for Banana, at least when the competition was stepped up. So we'll see if he
mm.
pops back up at any point. But certainly, this definitely leaves 154 in a place where maybe after Costa Zoo, or not Costa Zoo, but Jamel Charlo and Tim Zoo, then maybe Mendoza
Yeah.
faces the winner, which should be interesting. At least we know Mendoza has the punch to be able to do something.
Yeah, I was thinking about it now. Team is kind of has gotten more. How to say it? His role has been cleared now,
Yeah,
also because now Fundora is temporarily out of the picture. So
yeah,
now he should get that fight with Charlo.
yeah, without a
And
doubt, that clears a path right there for sure. I know it wasn't
yeah,
expected as
and, and when
yeah.
it comes to him fighting Mendoza, well, I don't know. That would be a pretty exciting fight as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, well, without a doubt. So we should certainly see. how things turn out. I'll
Mm.
mention also on that card, Brendan Lee picked up a win, and it was a 10-round unanimous decision in the
Oh yeah,
co-feature. Um, I believe it was Carlos Campa or something Campa. His last
yeah,
name is Campa.
yeah.
Uh,
The guy who was beaten by Errol Spence, actually, I think before that
mm,
was Ocampo. Yeah,
no, no, not Ocampo, not Ocampo. This
no,
was
not him.
Campa.
Campo, all right, yeah. I think Ocampo fought somebody else not very
Yeah,
long
yeah,
ago.
yeah. So Brendan Lee, I caught a little bit of the last 3 rounds of that, so I didn't see enough of it to really make a true
Mm.
impression. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. said, "Yeah, hopefully Jason Rosario can make his comeback. He's one of the few top Dominican boxers. Certainly, he had
Well,
picked up some
yeah,
wins in the Dominican Republic, but then when he came back over and fought Mendoza, that's when he suffered another loss."
yeah, not gonna be easy, I think, but still, also, let's not remember Julian. What's his name? Julian J. Rock.
J.
He
Rock
was,
Williams.
yeah, he was like, the only guy he beat was Jared Hurd. That was really good, and
Yeah,
so
I think he fought recently, J Rock. I don't know if he won though.
right,
I don't think he
yeah.
did. I'm gonna look, as a matter of fact, because he, yeah, was seemingly promising himself. Looks like he did pick up a victory. It was actually an 8 rounder in November.
Mm. I
So,
got a message.
but yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see if either of them are able to come back. Actually, which would
Mm.
be interesting. Shout out Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. Says salute boys, happy Easter, happy Easter there, Bruce. Hope all is going well,
Easter.
buddy. Everyone follow Bruce Gas, Boxing and Jazz, and more. Very much entertainment there. Appreciate having you drop in, Bruce. It's always good to stop by your spot as well because entertaining as mentioned. Keep doing your thing, buddy.
Mhm.
Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, yeah, Camper was the first dude Tio faced at 140. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yep, he got a
Tio,
win over there. So, all
right.
right, yeah, that was this kind of little comeback fight, Teofimo Lopez. So
Oh
interesting,
yeah, all right.
interesting, very much interesting. So yeah,
Mm.
Brendan Lee. So we'll see what's next for Brendan Lee. It looked tough for him, not in the sense that he couldn't
Yes.
handle it, but certainly it seemed like Campo was putting up some resistance, but he was able to pull through. I also see that
Mm.
Frank Sanchez was in action and actually pulled off a
Oh,
first round KO over, I would say, journeyman heavyweight. But
interesting.
Frank Sanchez, a
Oh,
name that's still out there that we're waiting to see what he can do at heavyweight. If at least one of these top guys gets in the ring with him,
yeah,
whether or not that happens will be interesting.
he's so fluid. I love his style. He's one of my favorite heavyweights actually right now, and he's got the skills but also he's a strong guy. Obviously, otherwise he wouldn't be able to handle a jug by the way he did. Also he
Yeah.
does have some power as well, and yeah.
You know
So
what may be interesting, as a matter of fact, and it's on an event that we're going to talk about as well, and that is a top rank card, and it just so happened to be the co-feature, and that was Jared Big Baby Anderson took out Arias, and his name is
yeah,
actually what is his
corner retirement. Hmm.
George Arias,
Yeah,
a Cuban, I mean a Dominican heavyweight who
Dominic,
was 18-0 and was expected to really be a pretty solid or decent test with Jared Anderson, but it ended up
but
not
no,
being the case because Jared
no, yeah.
Anderson really broke him down in essentially 1 round, and man, he had him on
Arias.
stumbling and wobbling legs before he was it was actually TKO in the third round. For some reason, I was thinking it was first, but I guess that was at
Yeah, it
the end of the
was
second.
corner retirement, I believe it says.
So yeah, before the
It's
start of this
interesting.
third round, and I saw Jared Anderson. He took his time. He didn't rush in. He just kind of bided his time, kept pressing, kept cutting the ring off. Arias, he could move well. Arias was a solidly built. He was about 5'11". He was moving pretty well, but eventually, of course, he got caught on the ropes. Those type things offer the chance and opportunity for Anderson to get his offense off, and he really did,
Right.
and he was really laying it into areas, especially there at the end of the round. And had it not been for the bell and the round ended, I think he would have gone down and in a major way. And it turns out that even his corner docs and everyone, while he was in his corner, felt that hey, he couldn't continue forward. So I thought it was a fairly impressive victory for Jared Big Baby Anderson, and
Mm.
that makes me wonder if it's too soon for a top 10 opponent like Frank Sanchez. But I think that would be very interesting. I tell you that.
Yeah, he has now obviously proven that he can. He has the how to say potential. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that would be also a good fight for the future anyway to make against Sanchez and I think
certainly.
Anderson is. They are about the same height, I believe, also as well. So that's kind of
Yeah.
good. There's no big size
Yeah,
disparity or
because
anything.
Sanchez is like 6'3", 6'4", so Anderson
Yeah,
is right around that same range. 6'4" is
yeah,
what he's
six
listed at.
four, I
So
think. Yeah, they are both
they
about.
actually seem to. They probably will match up fairly well when standing next to each other. Anderson might be a
Mm,
little bit bigger, but I don't think by
yeah,
much.
yeah. So that would be a really great test for Anderson to show whether he can overcome, this kind of adversity with a tricky fire slick guy like Sanchez, who moves so well and boxes so well. Yeah,
Yeah,
that remains to be seen, of course.
yeah.
But so far, Anderson looks good. Yeah, definitely, and yeah, he proved that
Rodolfo
last.
Rivera Jr. says, "Yeah, Jared is the real deal for sure. I think he's
Mm,
ready for a top 10 guy personally." Yeah, it seems that way. It's one of those situations where, of course, he's supposed to be the next big American heavyweight, and that can be pressure, of course, once you get to a certain level. But he
mm,
certainly has passed every test with almost flying colors in each fight. And
yeah,
this was a very impressive. His last two have been pretty impressive, given the opponents at least the expectations with the opponents because he beat Jerry Forrester. I think it's Forrester and or
yeah.
Forrest, but
Forrest, yeah,
yeah, he was
Forrest.
known to be a fairly tough guy. We saw him hanging in there with James Gillette and
Yeah,
not really give in, and also had his moment where he hurt James Gillette. So Jared Anderson handled him fairly easily, and yeah, if not top 10, top 15, I don't know exactly who that would be. Just thinking about it now, who are some of those top 15 guys? Because I know when I last looked at the ratings there at the tail end, uh, they had Frank Sanchez at 9, and number 10 was the Croatian heavyweight. What his name is
Hergovic.
taking me? Yeah,
Hergovic.
Hergovich. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Thanks. Yeah, Hergovich.
yeah,
So he's already called out Hergovich before. It'll be interesting to see if even that one was made. I think that would be a very interesting as well against two guys who have that potential, to shoot up
yeah,
to the top.
yeah. Hergovic also needs a fight soon. Also, I think, and being that he had a tough fight against Jean Gillet, he now needs to where he didn't really look so good despite winning. I thought he did
Yeah,
deserve to win, but it was close and he was down and
yeah, very
hurt.
close, very close. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of people probably underestimated James Gillette, probably having
yeah.
not seen him and not being aware of his size because he is a big dude. He's a big,
Oh
strong
yeah,
dude.
man. He's a monster. He's freakishly strong and tough guy. Oh, that's
Yeah, and when guys typically look smaller standing next to Joe Joyce, but he doesn't, which is crazy, right?
yeah, yeah. With his features, the
Yeah,
juggernaut
yeah, the
features.
Juggernaut. They both have a head that is near the same size, I would say.
Yeah.
Those are some big
I'm gonna
guys.
get
So
you.
So that's a good win for Hergovich, and considering that it was a step up for him, he did pull it off. It was very tough for him, without a doubt.
Hmm.
It was very tough, but he handled it and he pulled it off. I think Big Bang, as Rodolfo mentioned, slowed down there at the tail end, but Hergovich he pulled it off. And Rodolfo also mentions that Jerry Forrest performance was pretty good, and Jerry is known for his shin. Yes, it was pretty impressive to see Jared Anderson break down Jerry Forrest in
Hmm.
that manner. Now, Yeah, that just
And,
leaves the questions open. And then Timothy Bradley, he's said during the broadcast that he thinks that Jared Anderson, and he said this in the last one, he thinks he's ready for Anthony Joshua. He thinks he can beat Anthony Joshua, which would be interesting.
well, he is, I'm sure. I mean, Anthony Joshua is no longer what he used to be. One can safely say. I also saw that True Jordy had the same sentiment, which I also had, that he has lost his killer instinct. Obviously, I mean, that's
Yeah,
how it looks. In the last fight, he was too gun shy, to put it that way.
yeah,
In a large part of the fight, anyway, the first half he was like, he looked lost, pretty much,
yeah.
cautious stuff.
And that's against the guys who aren't big punchers because
Yeah,
realistically, Franklin's not a big puncher.
a guy where you against which you can afford to take chances and try to
Yeah,
knock him out. So even if you get caught with the counter punch, you will not get knocked out for sure.
yeah. Even Andy Ruiz is not a big puncher, so that
No,
has.
he's a fast puncher.
Yeah, he's a fast puncher. And Franklin, yeah, he has fairly fast punches, I guess, by comparison to Joshua, for sure. So he
Hmm.
was able to get in some work. But yeah, Joshua definitely didn't press in the way that you think he would have, as far
Yeah,
as this was meant to be like my return. I need to make a statement. And he did win. He did win. I thought he won fairly comfortably. I had it 116,
mm,
112, but I think that could be considered a bit close. So
yeah.
117, 111, I
It
think is
was,
fine somewhere around there.
yeah, I
So
think
not
it
mad at it.
was closer than 117, 111 because a lot of rounds were close also.
Yeah.
So, well, it depends who you were cheering at
Well,
also. I
Tony
mean, if
Bellew wasn't giving Franklin any credit.
yeah, oh man, that was that scorecard was
Yeah.
atrocious. I think he gave him one or two. I don't know. I
Yeah, yeah,
saw
it was
that
somewhere around there. I'm like,
after
come on now.
after 9 rounds, he only had given Jermaine the last one, the ninth.
Especially those rounds where it was a bunch of holding from Joshua.
Yeah, he had done nothing. I mean, in the first 6 rounds, he barely landed. He landed a couple of punches, maybe they were really good.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, and his nose was bloody from round
Yeah,
one.
yeah. So
So very interesting.
that part was Franklin's best part of the fight, the first 6 rounds.
Yeah,
After that he got weaker, starting to
he was moving pretty fast, and you can see
yeah,
he does have a little bit of hand speed that is pretty decent. So he was
yeah,
doing that at first, but yeah, you're right. And then it kind of he slowed down, and Joshua's size, of course, with them being tied
yeah.
up.
Yeah, he tired. He was worn down. Worn out by Joshua, but he's got a great chin. I mean, pretty good, pretty great.
Yeah,
So he didn't get stopped.
yeah. So Rodolfo Rivera Jr. mentions next Saturday is going to be a clash of the
Oh
Titans. Since we're on it, of course, that's Joe Joyce versus the Big
yeah.
Bane. So we have the Juggernaut, the Big Bane. When those two things meet, it's spontaneous explosion right there, uh, or spontaneous combustion, whatever it may
Boom.
be. It's going to be something major. So, what are your thoughts heading into that fight? Because I know just from our discussions, of course, we like both guys. Both guys have shown
Yeah,
some pretty good stuff, and both guys have power, can punch, and
that's
both of them seem to have pretty solid chins
yeah,
overall. Even though James Delay has been hurt a couple of times, even though he withstood it, but he does have
yeah.
a chin, and we know Juggernaut. No one has seemed to be able to do anything with this chin, so it's gonna
And
be interesting.
I don't think they will either, but I think it will be one hell of a fight, most likely. I mean, and it's a pretty important fight also
Yes.
because whoever wins will be propelled straight towards the world title shot. I expect, I hope they
Yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah. That should be the case. And of course, Joyce is no spring chicken at 37, but I think James Gillette is maybe 40 now. Let me see.
Yeah, I think he is. He was like 39 last year or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So they're both around the same age, in that same age
Mm.
range. So it's really a fairly even fight on paper if you look at it overall. Both of them were good amateurs. Both of them are generally around the same size, and
Yeah,
so
huge guy.
Jang is actually 39, so he hasn't hit 40 yet. So he. Let me
but
see.
soon he
Yeah, I'd
will.
imagine fairly soon he would be hitting 30. But yeah, so there. Hey, this is like it. Like you said, both of them were on a fast track from the start of their careers anyway. So it sped up a little bit for Joyce, a bit more, and James Delay. Hey, it started to speed up for him in the last several fights. So now's the right time, and we're gonna get a winner who deserves it and should be someone seriously in title contention. And
Mm.
of course, that's a matter of whether it'll be Usyk or
And
Tyson
yeah,
Fury. I mean, it's just
and
one of those things.
if Joyce manages to stop Gillet, he that will be a huge statement as well.
Huge.
Yeah, if he does, I think he can, but will he? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I'm not
Yeah.
such a yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody can really predict that, and but it's possible. It is possible. But I think it's like 75 chance that it's percent chance that it will go the distance, and 25 maybe that Joyce will stop Gillet.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
kind of
Certainly.
like the same way he stopped Parker, kind of late in the fight.
Yeah, yeah, and Big Bang has always been an interesting fighter for me. I have a video on the channel for those that haven't seen. It's called "The
Yeah,
Curious Case of Zhang Jilei," just
and
because
one
I
more
found it to be
thing.
interesting.
Chile does have a kind of, it doesn't have such a strong defense because Hrgovic
Yeah,
was able to land a lot, on him.
yeah,
Just that he didn't really hurt him, but until the last round anyway. But
yeah, yeah,
we saw that in the last round also Zhang was kind of started to get shaky on his legs, because he had taken a lot of punches from Hrgovic. So
yes. So
if he
yeah,
fights that way against Joyce, he will get stopped probably. But
yeah. So he has a
yeah.
solid chin, but Joyce, man, he's been hit with some huge shots, and I haven't seen
Yeah,
him really flinch.
yeah.
So I
Well,
don't know what his chin is made of, but it's certainly
yeah. I
outerworldly,
mean,
I guess you can say.
you saw the Dubois fight. I mean, that guy can punch Dubois, and he hit him with pretty much
Yeah,
everything, but the kitchen sink, and this
right,
Joyce
and
just
George kept coming forward.
yeah stood there, kept coming.
I know that had to be demoralizing for Dubois in some sense because to
Yeah,
that point, and he was trying to rush things, and everyone else got folded at some point. But Joyce, no, no way, no how.
yeah. Dubois is a guy who definitely has that power that can end fights quickly, and he's a very strong guy, obviously, physically, but he was just getting nowhere with his punches. And really, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for the heavyweight division.
Look
Rodolfo
at
Rivera
what.
says both guys use their head as their defense, without a doubt. Without a
But
doubt.
that head, Joyce's head is really heavy and hard as hell.
Yeah, the juggernaut. But yeah. So also on this card, of course, it was headlined by Shakur Stevenson taking on Yoshino, and it was a 12-round lightweight fight. So Shakur Stevenson made his debut at lightweight. He ended up picking up a dominant six
Quite a
round
debut.
TKO, and he
Mm.
looked as good as ever. I mean, you could just tell his
Yeah.
body is filling out. I think Shakur
Yeah.
Stevenson is going to be a major problem for anyone 135 to 140, and I know he's going to eventually end up at 147 at some point. But for right now, anyone at 135 and 140, beware. And I know he's willing to take on any and all comers if they will get in the ring with him. Maybe Devin Haney will be the guy to do so if he were to get past
Yeah.
Lomachenko, which is an if right now. But that would be a spectacular fight down the road. Shakur Stevenson versus Devin Haney.
Yeah, I was instantly thinking of him versus Haney. That would be the big fight at 135,
Yeah.
especially after Lomachenko retires.
Oh, yeah,
Because
certainly.
actually, I read Lomachenko said he might be going back to 126. Come on,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
126, huh?
So he's definitely not moving up anymore any
Yeah,
further.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I think it would certainly not serve him well moving up.
yeah. And he said that before a few years back. I remember when they were asking him about 140. He just said, "No, no, not going to 140. No way,"
Yeah, yeah.
because he simply isn't big enough.
Yeah. Yeah, true, true. Yeah. So and he's not a power guy like that. He moves and
Yeah,
all that
you
stuff.
got
And if
got
that
guys like
slows down, then that's going to be a major hindrance.
Yeah, you got guys like Prograde there who can really punch, and Ryan Garcia now
Yeah,
also a tank. Well, he was gonna fight Tank anyway, but yeah, anyway, Ryan
yeah, that's
Garcia
taking
is
place at 136.
yeah, Ryan Garcia
The
is kind of too big for Lomachenko, I believe, too dangerous.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Shakur Stevenson, man, he looked great. He was actually walking down Yoshino, and at
Mm,
points, yeah, some of the combinations he was landing, they were super sharp. And his punches
yeah,
were accurate, of course, as always.
and
And
Yoshino was undefeated, wasn't
he
he?
was under.
Coming in,
He had a win over
yeah.
Nakatani and Ito.
Mm,
Uh, Two solid fighters there. I know Ito is who Jamel Herring beat to win the featherweight or the light, 130-pound title, I believe it was actually.
mm,
So yeah, these are two tough guys. And Nakatani, I mean, he gave Teofimo Lopez hell.
mm,
Lomachenko destroyed Nakatani, which is one of
yeah,
his best performances. So if we see that version of Lomachenko against Devin Haney, it's going to be very interesting, right? But it's a
yeah,
matter of if,
yeah.
of course,
True.
that was a few fights ago in a prior to a war that he's been involved in now.
Yeah, I think Lomachenko will just look to really put on a great performance against the Haney because he knows maybe his last one, very well, and he's like 35 now, right? I think, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
So
been it's been inactive, all that stuff, and yeah, but still he has enough left in him to, or at least a couple of great performances, I would say. Yeah, before
certainly.
he retires. Yeah.
Certainly,
So
that would be interesting. Rodolfo Rivera
mm,
Jr. says, yeah, Loma would be in trouble at 140. I even think he's small for 135, so imagine how he would do at 140. Certainly,
mm,
certainly. So, hey, that'll be interesting if he moves back down to 126 because there's still some pretty good fights out there to be made
oh
at
yeah.
126 pounds. So
Mm.
that'll
And
be
he
interesting as well.
he could actually hit pretty well at 126 and 130, but at
Yeah,
135 it was already a little,
it'd be interesting in there with Brandon Figueroa, someone like him
yeah.
who just comes forward, throws a ton of punches. I wonder
Oh
how they
yeah.
do with him. That would be a lot to deal with, of course, but very
Mm.
interesting.
I don't remember which fight he was mentioning somebody specific at 126, but
Mm.
I don't remember who it was.
Okay, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think it was Figueroa anyway. It was
yeah,
maybe
probably not. But
yeah,
yeah,
I don't know.
he'd be a welcome addition. I would say a welcome addition to
Mm.
126 pounds, make for some good fights. I also want to see Shakur Stevenson against the winner of Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, but the likelihood of that happening, I don't think it will happen. But that would be
Yeah,
interesting, especially if Tank wins. Then that would be a interesting fight right there to see how Tank handles someone of Shakur's skill, which would be crazy.
yeah.
I'd favor
Well,
Shakur
yeah,
over a lot of guys right now at between 135 and 140. Yeah, just sticking with 135. Yeah, I favor him over everyone at 135, even though he just got there. Now, I think the Haney fight would be a great fight between the two, a very technical fight, and I think we'd see the best of both of them. But I do think Shakur would prevail, so
yeah.
very
I
interesting.
also think he probably will beat Haney. Yeah, probably.
Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says we need that Nomas Chinko to come back. Yeah, Nomas Chinko might be gone there, Rodolfo.
Yeah,
We might not have him
unfortunately,
anymore. The age may have factored into that, though.
this is now maybe survival. Lomachenko survival.
But
That
certainly,
is.
Nomaschenko was a beast. Yeah, I still remember I actually favored, interestingly enough, I actually favored Nicholas Walters over Lomachenko when they fought. Remember that fight? And Nicholas
Yeah,
Walters hasn't fought since then.
he hadn't. He never landed a damn
I
punch
know it
on.
was such a shame to see because I expected that
Yeah.
fight to be so much greater. I don't know if I mentioned the story before, but I had actually bought tickets to that fight, two tickets, and then
Hmm.
I waited last minute. It was in Las Vegas. Then I waited last minute to get a hotel and a flight, and then it was going to be like crazy. It was going to be a couple of $1,000s, and I was like, "Damn, you know what? I have these tickets." I was like, "You know what? I'm not going to do that right now." And so I ended up giving them to a buddy who I used to work with, who actually had moved to Las Vegas. He went out there and checked it out. And I was telling him, I was like, man, this is gonna be a top level fight. And then one of the questions he asked me when he comes back was like, why did that dude quit like that? And I was like, I don't know. I can't even explain it because I wasn't expecting it at all. That would have definitely sucked. I would have been disappointed if I'd have gone there and certainly seen Walters in that manner because prior to that, he was pretty much chopping any and everything down. And the way
Yeah,
he handled Nonito Donaire was crazy.
yeah. He was gonna say he knocked him out in 6 rounds. Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Yeah, it was. He had a lot of confidence back then, but
Yeah,
he just wasn't made, to beat Lomachenko. He was a
yeah.
puncher, mostly. Yeah,
Yeah, and then I guess he had some issues with Bob Arum promotionally. Yeah, we
yeah.
haven't seen him since then. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says Loma cooked Walters bad. Indeed, he did. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says Walters actually fought in February this year. It's been 7 years since his loss in 2016. Oh, what the heck? So he fought this year? I got to check that out. Rodolfo says it's kind of crazy to think how 2016 was 7 years ago. Yes, that is. That is
Yeah.
very crazy. So let me see this. So Nicholas Walters has
Seems like two
fought
years
again.
ago.
I was thinking about trying to get him for an interview or something. I just wanted to talk to the Axe man who man, he was so promising, yeah, I thought at least. And then yeah, you're right there, Rodolfo. So he fought February 25th at 140 pounds against a journeyman from somewhere from Colombia. So this was actually in Colombia. So okay, so it wasn't really
All
anything
right.
marquee. He's 37 now, so the likelihood of him making some major comeback is very slim, I'd imagine, especially
Yeah,
being this far removed from when he was actually in elite level competition.
that was just, so he can retire on a good note, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, maybe a Sergio Martinez type situation,
Yeah,
except not that far, in age at least.
Sergio.
Excuse me, but yeah, the
Sergio.
WBA, I believe, have him ranked somewhere in the top 160 pounders, which is insane. But hey,
Yeah,
one of those things. Uh, I also mentioned
right,
that Keyshawn Davis, he got a win as well over Anthony
right.
Yiddick or Yidget or whatever
Yigit,
they say.
Yigit,
Yidget.
Anthony Yigit,
Anthony
yeah,
Yidget, Swedish fighter. And Keyshawn Davis
yeah,
looked very dominant. I mean, this was his eighth fight, if I'm not mistaken, and he handled
right.
it well. He pretty much brought it to Yigit. He
Yigit
boxed well to start out, and then when he
is,
wanted to press, as he had mentioned in the press conferences beforehand, he's going to do what he wants to do. So he did what he wants to do. Yigit was, game, of course, but from a skill level, certainly outmatched. And Keyshawn Davis, man, he's on a pretty high trajectory there as well. This was at 135 pounds, so he's lightweight as well. So
mm,
very interesting addition to lightweight. I know him and Devin Haney have had some back and forth. Of course, Keyshawn Davis is still early on. I don't think he's been a pro for. I know it's been less than 2 years, maybe not even a full year, but I could be wrong. That being said, Keyshawn looks very promising, and it'll be
mm.
interesting to see who he takes on here down the road as well. So keep an
Yeah,
eye out on him.
I know that Yigit was a kind of, sorry, kind of world class or close to it anyway. But I think now he's probably past his prime, and yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
yeah.
Yiggit. Yeah, he was still game. Yeah, definitely
Mm.
outskilled in this
Not
one.
to
So
take anything away from Kishon days, but still, I
yeah,
think he
right.
was always also more a kind of a boxer than a fighter, puncher.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly,
Mm.
certainly. And he was a part of the World Boxing Super Series. He ended up losing to
You
Ivan
know,
Barancik
he's Turkish. I mean,
or
his
Josh Taylor, winner.
ethnicity. That's why his last name doesn't sound Swedish because he's actually Turkish originally. Of
Oh, okay.
Turkish
There you go.
origin. Yigit.
Yeah, he lost to Ivan Barancik in the World Boxing Super Series.
If I went to Google Translate to see what it meant in Turkish. It means brave.
Oh, Yiggit,
Yeah.
Yiggit. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says Keyshawn looked great. Indeed, he's a welcome addition to
Dig it.
135 pounds, which still has a lot of talent there. 135 and 140. If we can get all those guys to
Can
fight each other in some combination, it'll be great.
can you dig it? Dig it.
Can you dig it? Yig it? I think
Can you?
Keyshawn Davis said that at the press conference or something of that nature,
All right.
which is
Yeah,
funny, right?
yeah.
Can't help
You
yourself
know,
but to say such.
did
So
you
it was
watch
good
that?
stuff. It was good stuff. But
You know, yeah.
also I wanted to mention that we got to see the return of the WBO World Flyweight Champion. That is, I think this was him winning it for his
Just
second division. Bam Rodriguez, Jesse Bam Rodriguez. He took on a fighter Gonzalez is the last name, a Mexican fighter.
Christian Gonzalez.
Christian Gonzalez, all right, good to go. Yeah, Christian Gonzalez came in 15-1. Of course, Bam is 17-0. We've seen Bam handle Sarissa Rungvisai with flying colors. He
Mm.
was been tough in one of his last fights. I think it was at the tail end of last year. And Bam, man, he has the goods. Now I was watching this fight in combination with trying to
Mm.
watch some of the other stuff that was going on, but Bam looked good from what I saw. I mean, Bam, I think
Mm.
that he's going to be one of those fighters we'll have to definitely look out for, who has that potential to be pound for pound ranked, and it may happen, especially considering he went down in weight, and I think this was at 112, if I'm not mistaken. And if that is the case, I think he went down, and he eventually will go back up again, I'd imagine.
Mm.
And hey, he'll be a sight to see. He's one of those guys who's super skilled. He has great movement, great footwork. He reminds you of Lomachenko in a sense. If you think about footwork, Bam Rodriguez has that level of footwork, uh,
Mm.
and I think that he has very great potential. So another victory here. Got his second title in a or his title in the second weight division, and the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, if he stays focused, he can achieve a lot, of course.
Certainly,
It's,
certainly, he certainly can, and he won via unanimous decision. Yeah, scores of 116, 112, 117, 111, and 118, 110. So that guy Gonzalez, he was hanging in there. He was very game. So he didn't slow down himself, and he was able to do a few good things in the fight. And it just was a matter of course, Bam Rodriguez has that kind of superstar trajectory in terms of if he just continues at this pace he's on, and say he moves back up, we get him in there with the likes of a Chocolatito, Juan Francisco Estrada, which I think would be excellent fights. Then I think
oh
we're going to
yeah.
see something special for sure.
I muted myself
Uh,
because I had to, cough and stuff. I was like,
yeah,
oh yeah, and then I
yeah, I
forgot.
had to myself. I couldn't even do the boxing stuff the last 2 weeks. I was feeling a little bit bad. I
Yeah.
had some amateur boxing stuff I wasn't able to do,
All
but
right. Hmm.
get back in the mix here maybe next week.
Yeah. There was one guy who, well, you are about to get to that, I'm sure. Another, an upset that happened last year. a,
It happened last night.
yeah, last night.
Oh
So
yes,
yes, I said,
oh yes, my guy Mirajan Akhmadaluev.
yes.
Mirajan, is that what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. That's the
Okay, yeah,
one.
Mirajan Akhmadaliev. He ended up losing to Marian Tapales. I think they were saying.
Oh,
It looks like
Marlon.
Tapales. He's a
Yeah,
Filipino fighter.
yeah.
He came in 36-3. Mirajan came in 11-0. He was coming off of a broken hand, apparently broken in 7 places
Hmm.
in his fight. I forget who was fighting last time,
All right. I didn't
he
know
was
that.
fighting Rios, Ronnie Rios, actually, I believe it was.
Hmm. Yeah.
And he broke his hand in that fight. He ended up stopping Rios in that fight as well.
Hmm.
But of course, he may have suffered the consequences of such with his hand being broken in second places. And it didn't work out for him in this fight, even though he was game and he came on. It seemed like it was fairly close, but the decision, at least from the broadcast standpoint, they weren't disputing it much because it ended up being Mirajan losing via decision, split decision it was, and he ended up losing his or not WBO. He ended up losing. I believe he had a title,
Two titles actually. Two. I
two
think
titles. All right,
was it WBA and
IBF. Yep,
IBF, yeah.
super bantamweight titles. So Murajan, aka MJ, no longer has his titles. And man, I was
Mm.
looking forward to him potentially taking on the winner of sorry, I'm getting a unexpected phone call. But I was looking on him potentially taking on the winner of Stephen Fulton, Naoya Inoue. Man,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, man. About Fulton and Norway, I mean, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, no. Oh well, on Mirajan MJ losing, but I guess it
Oh
comes down
yeah,
to
about
those
him. Yeah,
two.
yeah.
But
Well,
I,
yeah.
he's very good. He's very good, and I thought he was
Mm,
underrated by some as well. But dang, this
yeah.
definitely is a setback. I think he can bounce back from it though.
Yeah, I mean, since you say he had a hand injury, that can of course affect you when you are fighting a fight like this of this level. And I guess the other guy was also hungry,
Yeah,
to
he was.
for yeah. He proved it also, and with Filipino fighters, that's the thing. I would say that they are really, once they are hungry enough, they are really hard to beat. I mean, well,
Yeah, this
yeah,
guy was tough. You could just
yeah.
tell he was giving it
They
his all right
just,
in there. So he was not to be denied on that night for sure because he was
yeah. I
really
mean,
bringing it.
they are really kind of very tenacious
Yeah,
fighters. I mean,
and determined.
tenacious.
So
Yeah, determined. Yeah,
but yeah,
and that's
it
so
looked
true.
like it was a fairly close fight from what I saw. Again, I was watching some other stuff at the same time, or trying to watch some of the other
Mm,
matches at the same time. So that's tough to focus in on a single fight, of course.
mm.
But yeah, so Mirajan goes down. He will have to bounce back.
Lord John.
We'll see how he does. Not the end of the world for him, I'm sure. So he should be able to do
No,
his
of
thing.
course.
So welcome,
Yeah.
Parth Tiwari. Welcome, buddy. Appreciate having you drop in. He says, "What do you think of Loma moving back and fighting Inoue? That could be very
Oh
interesting,
yeah,
depending
that
on
was the guy he was talking
yeah,
about.
yeah."
Yeah,
So that would be interesting. I think that would be a very good fight. I would favor Inoue at this stage if it were to happen, and I'd
yeah.
assume that it would have to happen at 126 because
Mm,
Inoue just moved to 122. And given the timing, I guess depending on how long Inoue stays at 122, which give or take, it all depends on I guess what happens in this fight with Stephen and Fulton. So I'd imagine he may want to try and become undisputed at 122, which would kind of keep the time ticking. And whether Lomachenko actually goes back down to 126 for sure,
mm.
that will be a deciding factor. Could it happen? Potentially. Will it happen? Maybe not, but certainly it would be a very interesting one. And I think you'll have two very talented fighters in the mix there. I just think that given when it could potentially happen, if it were to happen, I'd have to favor Inoue being the fresher fighter. And yeah, Lomachenko will have had this Haney fight by then. And of course, we know Haney is
Yeah,
a very solid guy in terms of his overall size at 135 pounds. So he's going to be in
yeah,
there with a tough fight. I don't see it going. I don't see it or Lomachenko winning via stoppage or anything. I see it going the distance, so that's going to be a tough one for him. So maybe at some point that could happen, but in all likelihood, I don't think the timing will work out for an Inoue Loma fight. But it would have been excellent to see if it had happened at some point.
it would be great interest for the fight for sure. And I think if Inoue was to lose to Fulton, then maybe that would make more. I mean, maybe that fight would be made easier. But I don't think he will. But if
Yeah,
he was going to lose, then
yeah,
he
because they're
would be
both
more.
top ranked.
Yeah, he would be more interested maybe fighting Lomachenko. I don't know. Well, anyway, it would be easier to get made because then there
Yeah,
wouldn't be anything, else that he could, because Lomachenko would not be a mandatory or anything.
yeah. He wouldn't have
That's,
any
yeah,
title, so he'd have to try and get a title or something of that nature if it were the
yeah,
case. But
yeah.
in theory, neither one of them would have it because Lomachenko he hasn't fought at 122, right?
No, of
So
course, yeah, no, he hadn't fought.
so Inoue would have to come up, and he just
Hmm.
moved up. So I don't
Yeah,
think it's going to happen, but that would be an interesting one if it does.
yeah, I'm not sure. Really, maybe this is just Lomachenko talking. I don't
Yeah,
know if he can make it. I mean, make that weight at
yeah, dropping
126.
from dropping two divisions
Yeah,
down, maybe, but
yeah,
I'd have to think that he might have to drain himself since he hasn't been there for a number of years now.
yeah. And even if he could, it could, as you said, affect him. He would drain himself, and would have to. And if
Yeah, he
he
might be better served dropping to 130,
I
where
started to speak Norwegian now, I will say it agently, which means really, really in Norwegian.
oh yeah, I understand, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I don't think he should go for that fight anyway. But
Yeah,
maybe,
no, I feel you.
of course, he would earn a lot probably just to
Yeah,
take that fight.
especially if it were Japan, I then imagine they'd sell out something major, you know.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
I don't think that's a really winnable fight for him. Not now, anyway.
no,
Maybe like
yeah, I'd have to favor Inoue just given the age
yeah,
and the
four
fact that
years
Lomachenko
ago.
would have to drop 10
Yeah,
plus pounds, at least 10 pounds or 11
mm,
pounds, essentially, if you look at it from a I guess, division standpoint. So, no, 126 and then 35. So, yeah.
mm.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it was if it was 2019, I would say
9 pounds.
go for it, Loma. But now, no way. I'm not really for it. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, in a way, as you said, we have to also gain weight. So maybe that would affect him as well. He wouldn't be as impressive, in his performance. So if
Yeah.
you would get two guys, one who is weight drained and one who is too slow and heavy because he had to put on too much,
yeah.
muscle. Well, yeah.
Yeah, interesting indeed. Shout out to Andre Rodriguez. Thanks for dropping in, buddy. He says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon to you as well. Salutes from Rodolfo as well. Down Goes Fundora is a good title. Andre Rodriguez says, yeah, I had to throw that in the mix. The Towering Inferno went down, and he went down in a major way. I was man,
Timber.
I had looked to the. I was look. I think I had looked down at my phone for a split second, and next thing you know, I looked up. He was laying on the
Um,
canvas, and I was like, "What the heck just happened?" In all actuality,
yeah,
then I saw the replay, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
I like that guy really, but Fundora. But when those guys who are so tall and skinny go down, it looks so good. You know what I mean?
yeah. This one was crazy. I
Yeah,
was replaying it this morning, showing my girlfriend, and yeah, it was like one of those yikes. But yeah, it was like a tree falling in the woods, basically.
yeah. Well, I'm glad he didn't get really hurt. Anyway, he was.
Yeah. He got up. He was good. He took it on the chin, which
Yeah,
hey, that's the way he chooses to fight. So hey, he went out the way he typically comes in,
yeah.
just in a blaze of
Just
glory.
just one bad night, and he'll be back. Of course.
yeah, indeed.
I
Shout
mean,
out to
Badu.
Hyphy.
Yeah, Badu
Salute
Jack.
Hyphy.
But hi, Fee.
Yeah.
Badu Jack, he was knocked out in one round, and he came back to become like three-time, I think,
Cruiserweight
world champion.
champion.
Yeah. So there it goes.
Cruiserweight champion Badu Jack. And he looked good in that fight. You know what? I didn't
Yeah.
his first couple of fights at cruiserweight were kind of lackluster, especially that last one. But
I
man, he
was,
looked good in this one.
yeah,
He handled Makabu.
Makabu. I
That
was
was a good
so
fight.
tired of. I was so tired of Makabu being champ. He was a lazy champion. He was not
yeah.
such a. In the last couple of years,
I'm
didn't
calling it
fight.
right now, like I called it back then. Canelo versus Badu Jack for the cruiserweight championship. That's happening at some point.
Bada badu, bada bing badu.
But yeah, salute Hyphy. Appreciate you dropping in. But he says MJ couldn't even out jab a smaller opponent. Marlon was countering MJ well all night. Yeah. Good stuff. That was happening,
MJ,
Hyphy. I feel like dang it,
Michael.
MJ, what the heck happened? That's
I
ruined
did.
the potential fight against the winner of Inoue in Fulton, which I thought would have been a great fight, regardless of who it ended up being. But hey, this also opens up the door for the winner or to him taking on the loser of the Fulton Inoue fight. So
I didn't know
some
Michael
solace.
Jordan was fighting as well. MJ.
oh yeah,
Well,
You know, he came back making an appearance.
yeah,
Uh,
but another a good thing is that our man Israel Madrimov, he won last night. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Madrimov looked good. That guy was
Yeah,
bigger than him too, and he eventually broke him down.
he is
He
very
didn't
good.
get him out there, but man, Murder or not Murder, but yeah, damn it, what's his
Israel,
name?
Israel.
Yeah, Israel. Yeah,
Yeah.
Madrimov. Yeah, he looked good. He was moving well in there. I like the way he was throwing some of those combinations. He would move. He would step to the left, turn,
Hmm.
get off a couple of shots, step to the
I
right, do
think
the same
he is
thing.
a real genuine challenge for Charlotte as well, but I don't know if he will get the chance because nobody has been
Yeah,
talking about it so far, not as far as I know yet.
yeah. He's not big. Yeah, he gets compared to Triple G, which he does
Right.
kind of look like Triple G up in there at times, but he's not as solidly built as Triple G in terms of overall
Hmm.
size. You know,
No.
so because he looked smaller in there with this guy who came in with three
Right.
losses, he was a solid
Charlotte.
dude, but he
Yeah.
handled it well, I thought, because he did take some shots and he didn't back down, or buckle, so he was in there
Hmm.
well, and he was landing some pretty heavy shots that this dude was able to take. But I guess the
Hmm.
trainer, I forget who they said his trainer was, but he was saying that he was the toughest dude they had. He trains out there with Regis Prograde, which I'm guessing is out in Houston or Texas somewhere, given the fact that, of course, Prograde from New Orleans, but I think he moved to Houston. Shout out to
Right.
Lane99, says, thanks for the show. Appreciate you dropping in, Lane. Thanks, buddy. But yeah, Israel Madrimov, he's passed the Michael Soro fight, so it'll be interesting. You know what? We talk about 160 all the time, and I kept forgetting to throw his name out there. And I know he's solid, and I wasn't thinking because kind of had fallen off the radar. I guess you can say a little
Yeah.
bit. It's good to see him back in the mix there, but he is someone to watch at 160, which is still wide open, basically. Or is he at
Yeah.
154? Is that
Madrimov.
yeah,
Yeah.
Madrimov? Is he at
Yeah.
160?
He was at 154. I guess he's still. I'm
Oh
not
yeah, this
sure.
is 160. Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
160 right here.
Hmm. All right. So we made the move. Oh, all
So
right.
yeah, I think this was his first fight at 160, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken.
Yeah,
But
because
he handled it well.
he isn't getting the big fights in 154, I guess. So he had to move up.
But
Move
kind
up.
of log jam there now.
Yeah.
A tree falling in the woods, Rodolfo Rivera, indeed. Yeah, that's what I mentioned.
Yeah.
Andre Rodriguez says, I watched Bam Rodriguez, that jaw in the sixth, damn, broken. Bam versus Sonny will be fire. Indeed. Yeah, you know what? I forgot to mention that he did have some, I saw that he had some jaw issue, but I didn't know it was a broken jaw. But man, that's
Son.
tough right there, battling through it. So props to Bam Rodriguez. Slight setback, but damn, he handled it. He's a tough dude. We are just saying that I think that Bam, man, yeah, he has the potential, if all goes in accord, to be one of those kind of pound for pound top fighters, type fighters. If he keeps doing his thing, the
Hmm.
opportunities keep arising. And also mentioned that, yeah, it would be crazy to see him. He moves back up, and it's against Juan Francisco Estrada or Chocolatito. Of course, the Estrada one being the preferred one, but either one will take because we know it's going to be offensive. So we'll
Hmm.
see if that happens at some point. Andre Rodriguez says the Filipino Demon took the titles too in the featherweight, super featherweight.
Who is that?
Yeah, who fit super featherweight, or let you
I
talk about
mean,
super Venom. Man,
yeah.
you might mean super Venom with Tapalis
Or
or
the Palace, yeah.
Tapalis. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, I think you mean super Venom. Yeah, took out Akhmadaluev,
Hmm.
Mirajan, aka MJ Akhmadaluev, which is interesting. But yeah,
Yes, it
so
was a major victory, no doubt.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it certainly was. Rodolfo Rivera says, yes, Madrimov is at 154. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think he fought at 160 last night.
yeah. Maybe it was just
Andre Rodriguez says
you
Madrimov is
know
a very
what?
good fighter. Indeed. So, yeah, I think he's moved to 160. I don't know if it was a one off deal, but
Or
I think
maybe
he's going to be
yeah.
competing at 160 now.
You know how Mike McCallum he had fights while he was a champion on 54. He had fights at 160 in between. Maybe it's kind of that sort of thing, or maybe he has moved up. We'll see. I mean,
Yeah,
soon.
he hadn't fought in a while, and I guess he was looking to get some fights, so he
Yeah,
Had to do what he had to
probably.
do.
Yeah.
Rodolfo Rivera said didn't catch the fight, but I remember he was ranked in the top 10 at one by the ring at 154. Yeah,
Yeah,
certainly.
he's very good. I mean, he's one that I definitely give a chance against the very best. I mean, and that's Shaw, of course, right now in the division.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you had an opportunity at 160. So I think that opportunity be interesting, or even uh Mexican
He was
fighter as
fighting,
well.
even though this guy, I don't know him, but he's from Africa. I see Rafael Igbokwe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's out of Houston or somewhere around there or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah,
All right. So
he was
he, hmm,
he's one of those guys who's just a tough guy. He's a big, solid 160 pounder. Well, you could tell he just looked very solid. But he was eating some shots. He has a hell of a chin. I give him that because Madrimov was hitting him with some pretty big stuff, and
hmm.
some of it staggered him. But he was handling it. You know what I'm saying?
He was eating
Ooh, Andre
leather.
Rodriguez,
He was he was eating leather sandwiches all night. To put it
Rodolfo
that way.
Rivera Jr. says, I think Andre is talking about Flash Lord, a 130-pound legend.
Yeah, he is a great fighter. He was
Funny, funny. But dog, good stuff. Old Flash, his son, or
Flash.
no, not son, but maybe some family member,
Grandsons,
grandson
yeah.
or great grandson, I don't know what it is, is
I
fighting.
think he's got two at least that are fighting
Okay,
against
okay,
him.
two. I remember seeing one fight not too long ago.
Yeah, one of them is kind of better. It seems to be than the other.
Yeah,
Usually,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like the sons of Julian Jackson. There was one.
Yeah.
What's his name? John or something. Who was like fighting some good fighters, but he lost.
Oh yes. Yeah, he got knocked out by Andy Lee.
Boom. Yeah, that's right. And the other one, I think it
Hell of
was
a
called.
knockout, all time knockout right there.
The other one is called Julius. I think something like that.
Okay. Julius.
Virgin
Julius.
Islands, I think also the other Virgin Islands, that's interesting. They don't have many champions, but the ones they
Yeah.
do. Emil Griffith was from Virgin Islands. Wow, man, what a
Okay.
fighter. And Julian Jackson, and there were a couple more at least, but I
Also,
can't.
Julian Jackson's from the Virgin Islands. Didn't know
Yeah,
that. Interesting.
that you can, if you listen to him speak, if you find some, you will see he's got that very Caribbean accent.
Yeah. Though Black Prince Peter Jackson from back in the day, he was from the Virgin Islands or
Oh,
what would be
yeah,
the Virgin Islands, I guess
right.
around that time.
Oh,
And
that
then
was
Jimi
that
Hendrix.
guy. Oh no, he was from the Bahamas. Elisha Obed, his name was. You
Yeah.
ever heard of him? He
What
was
was that?
Elisha Obed. He was a world champion at 154 in the 70s, late 70s.
No, I don't remember him. I don't
He
remember
is from
him.
the Bahamas. You had Yama Bahamas and
Yama Mahama. Oh yeah,
Bahama.
the one cat is from the Bahamas. This dude he fought Hami Mangia. I can't think of his name right now. He's like a little contender around middleweight. I can't think of his name, but he fought Hami Mangia. You would know him if you figured out his name.
Right.
I'm gonna figure it out. I gotta look at Hami Mangia's thing. Hami Mangia.
Murgia seems to be ready for 168 now, and I really
Ready for
do.
something at least.
I hope so. Anyway.
Something would be better than nothing. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Torreno Johnson is who I was thinking of.
Turiano. Yeah, you can see by the
Torreno
name.
Johnson.
Kind of like with Verno Phillips. He is called Verno because he is from. He was born in Belize. Belize. How do you call it? Belize. That
Belize.
country. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Belize. Yeah, good
So
stuff.
that's why his name is not Vernon, but Verno. Verno.
Yeah. Andre Rodriguez says I ranked Gabriel quite high in a recent list. So good stuff. Gabriel Flash Elordi. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Andre deservingly, hey, uh,
Yeah.
great, a
At
great fighter there.
130, he was practically unbeatable at his best. But at 135, because he had to fight Carlos Ortiz. He lost to him
Oh yeah,
twice.
Carlos Ortiz. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a beast, Puerto Rican
yeah,
legend.
too strong for him. Yeah, but those,
Certainly.
those were great fights anyway, both of them.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about Flash Elordi. I need to look up more stuff on him for sure. But I know he was a great fighter. Munguia or
Yeah,
Rodolfo Rivera says Munguia keeps jumping around divisions and leaving his work half done. Without a doubt, I think that to settle matters, it should just be Jaime Munguia versus Jamal Charlo fight at whatever weight they can make, and we'll
Mm.
call it a day. But it's not going to
Yeah,
happen though.
interesting. Hmm.
All right. Andre Rodriguez says, "Do you guys rank Azuma Nelson over Salvador Sanchez in the pound for pound list of the entire 1980s?" That's a very interesting one. I mean, of course
It's
they have
kind
the
of,
head to head, but
yeah. I mean,
it's unfortunate for Salvador Sanchez,
Sanchez.
of course. Now,
Yeah,
I
he
would
didn't.
rate Sanchez higher if you want to go off of just accomplishments. I guess you can
Yeah,
say Nelson,
yeah,
but in terms of, I thought if they would have fought again, I do think that Salvador Sanchez would have beat him again. I could say that. What do you think?
yeah. He was better as a technician, definitely, and Azuma was like had physical tools that were really quite
Yeah,
superior, but Sanchez was just one hell of a fire beast.
yeah, he was man, yeah, that's crazy. He looked so good at that particular point, and to think that
Yeah,
he was going to get better. So yeah, that's a good question there. So I can see someone ranking Nelson ahead of him if you were to kind of, I guess, take everything into account.
mm,
Um, but certainly Salvador Sanchez seemed to be a pretty special fighter without a doubt.
yeah, and also Wilfredo Gomez. Even though he lost to both guys, he was still a very. I mean, he beat. He had a great reign in 122 at super bantamweight, and
Yeah.
knocked out Carlos Zarate
Oh yeah, yeah.
in
That was
5 rounds only. Also, wow.
yeah, it was good stuff. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says just when he was ready for a step up at 160, he moves up to 168 and restarts his competition level all over again. So, I
Yes.
didn't know that. I didn't know Munguia had made it official. Oh,
Yeah, I
it's
think
official.
so.
He's
But he
moving,
had been at 160 for a while. I mean, it's not that he had just moved up.
but we never got a fight that was
Yeah,
worth much.
yeah,
I mean, so
yeah.
yeah.
He was a lot better at 154. A lot
Well,
more. Yeah.
Munguia versus Benavidez, that would be a potential war,
Oh yeah.
but I
Wow.
don't see
That
it happening. It's Benavidez
massacre.
wants Canelo, so hopefully we can get that one. I think that's, of course, the fight we would rather see.
Mm.
Rodolfo says Carlos Ortiz was a beast. Yes, sir. Shout out Puerto Rico. He recently passed away a year back or so.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I know it wasn't too long ago. Certainly
Yeah,
not
he
too
was
long
like,
ago.
I think he was born in 36 or something. So he was, yeah, already about close to 90 anyway.
Yeah. Andre Rodriguez, Olorde, and Seferino Garcia made quite an impact from the Philippines. Pancho Villa, too. Oh, yes, without a doubt.
Mm.
Seferino Garcia, I think he was welterweight world champion, right? Of course.
Middleweight.
Was that?
Middleweight.
Oh,
Middleweight.
middleweight.
Mm.
Okay.
He
Middleweight
was
was
a short middleweight but strong, He was 5'7", I think.
Ceferino. Yeah, I need to do a video on Ceferino. I have like one of those little moving picture type deep fake videos out there on him, but I need to do another video on him, dive into him
But I
some more.
think
Because
he
he often
is
gets left off of some of those top Filipino fighter lists.
he's the only Filipino middleweight champion still, I think, because there are just aren't many that are big enough to fight at middleweight,
Yeah,
or
without a
there.
doubt. And of course, I like Pancho Villa. Of course, he died before he could
Yeah,
continue to stamp his name in the game. Knocked out
tragic.
Jimmy Wild. I did a video on that recently, a little short
Yeah,
video.
and
But
I
Pancho
think
was a beast.
did he beat or what did he lose to Jimmy McLaren? I think that was his
He
last
might
fight.
have lost to McLaren. That's
Yeah,
probably one of his final ones, right?
because he was already, not feeling good. He was
Yeah, Jimmy
not.
McLaren has a hell of a resume without a doubt.
Oh
So
yeah,
Pancho Villa, yeah, he had 104 fights. Yeah, his last fight was with McLaren in 1925, and then of course he died
mhm.
getting some kind of procedure done. He was, I think, he was
Yeah. It was a
24.
tooth that was kind of ulcerated.
Yeah, that was knocking guys out last or during that time. Of course, that
Not
I guess it was
last
the
year.
anesthesia that killed Flowers, Tiger Flowers, of course, Harry Greb.
Oh yeah,
And hey,
flowers. Yeah,
make it want to go under the knife back then, for sure. If you were a boxer, at least.
yeah. You had plenty of great fighters. Tony Canzoneri also, he was
Oh yeah,
outstanding. And I didn't hear of him, until I started doing this, going to these forums where there was history. You know,
So
I
that
was like,
happened in
who?
Cincinnati.
Yeah, I was
Oh, I
like,
didn't know that. Now,
who is that guy? And then when I saw his record, I was like, wow, I was
yeah, it's
shocked.
insane. I was watching some of his fights a couple months ago, back to back. Man, yeah,
Yeah, I
he
think
could fight.
he beat Benny Leonard, wasn't he? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he had I think he won lightweight and the I want to he might have won
Welterweight,
featherweight. I
I
can't
think
remember for sure. I know he was a
featherweight.
lightweight champion.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, yeah, he
I
was.
feel like he won the title in another division. Andre
Yeah,
Rodriguez says record wise in the '80s, it's a pickle between Salvador and Azuma for him. Certainly, certainly. Yeah, I think you can't go wrong with either pick right there.
I love Azuma. He's one of my favorite fighters in those weights anyway, in those divisions. So he was very fast. He had a great punch. He had pretty much everything. Tough, of course.
Yeah, yeah, certainly.
Durable. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, he represents right there, Ghana, right? So he represents.
yeah,
He's still
yeah.
the top guy,
The
at least they mentioned.
the professor.
Oh, Professor. Andre Rodriguez says Carlos Ortiz had a real tough life after the career ended. I bet, I bet. I remember Doug Fisher would be talking about seeing him at, I guess, out in California, I want to say, at a gym training some fighters or whatever some years back. But yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, many of them
Carlos.
do. I mean, those old timers, they didn't have good lives after their career ended.
Yeah, yeah, you see a
Yeah,
lot of that. Then Rodolfo Rivera says, yeah, Tommy did more at 154 than he did at 160, which is kind of weird since at 160 he was at a much more mature stage. Certainly, certainly, I don't know what happened in terms. I don't know if it's him or Golden Boy not getting them fights, but man, I thought he was going to be out there a bit more. And of course, he has had some fights, but of course, not against any marquee opponent, which you would think that would be the case. People
mm,
would be lining up in terms of the potential financial gain to take him on if it's in Mexico at least, but I guess not. And I guess you got to demand it
yeah,
as well. Hype says Munguia has been struggling to make 160 for at least a year. His team has been seeking catch weight fights. Very interesting. Maybe that's why some of the stuff isn't happening there, Hype. Yeah, he
yeah,
is a big young man. I'll tell you that. So 168. I favor him over Berlanga, so hopefully they make that fight.
yeah. I was gonna say I would like to see that fight first for him to at
If
168.
Berlanga is ready, which we have to see him in a fight first, but they did an interview with
or
him on the zone.
or David Morrell, even better fight, but a more challenging fight
Yeah,
definitely
that's going to
for
be challenging right there.
yeah.
David Morrell would definitely give him some work, given how he looked against some other more of the boxer moving type. David Morrell, I think, would certainly lay wood.
He is a Cuban, isn't he? Also,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he's very promising right there. Very
Yes,
promising.
Cuban. Everybody
Man,
runs
right there.
away, but when they hear, "Oh, he's
Yeah,
Cuban," bye bye. So
yeah,
there's another
certainly.
fight.
One fighter that I'm searching a lot lately is Dave Shade. What a career, crazy. Yeah, I need to dive into him more. Dave Shade, I
Yeah,
remember what title did he win? Was it featherweight or lightweight?
no, I
I
think he
can't
was
remember, but I
like a
remember
light heavyweight.
boxing librarian mentioned him. I know he had a ton of fights.
Yeah,
I need to look
I
into him.
know. I read about him when I was doing a thread on was it Jimmy Slattery? It was light heavyweight anyway.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah,
beat
Slattery was
yeah.
yeah, he
He
fought at one.
did beat either him or was it? Yeah, I think it was
I need to
Slattery,
look it up. I could
but
be completely off. I know the name Dave Shade. I know he was in tough. So
Slattery was drunk actually. They say when he went into the ring to fight him, or
but
had,
welterweight Dave Shade. So they
had
listed him
a
as a
hangover.
welter.
Yeah,
Did he win a title?
yeah,
He lost
I
to
don't
Mickey
think so.
Walker.
But you know who else is really good a fighter that you never hear about was Billy Petrol.
Oh yeah, Billy Patrol. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. He was tough. He had a ton of fights as well.
Yeah,
He fought. So in the videos I've been doing, I've been featuring these guys, or at least the opponents of note, of course, in ranking, giving them a rating. I know I had him in a previous video. I can't remember who it was he took on. It might have been um was it Lewis. No, it might not have been Harry Lewis, but I can't remember. But yeah, Billy Patrol was a very good fighter. Very good
Mm.
fighter. I don't think he won a world title, but
No, but
he
he fought some.
potentially could have been a
Yeah,
world champion without a doubt.
yeah, he beat some really good fighters. Yeah. Mm.
Okay, Rodolfo Rivera says I've seen Berlanga is going to fight Quigley soon. So Quigley, I'm guessing
Right.
that's the guy that Demetrius Andre beat when in his last fight with the Zone, or the one prior to that, something like that. So
Mm.
interesting. I guess that'll be a good test for him right there. So to see where Berlanga is, Berlanga said he went back with his old trainer or whatever. So maybe he's motivated and feeling the type of way. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. DL mentions Dave Shade a lot. Yes, indeed, he does. So that's where I first heard of him from. Without a
Mm.
doubt, Rodolfo. So we're on
Yeah.
the same page there. Andres Rodriguez, welterweight, good to go, good to go. Dave Shade, he
Yeah,
fought Mickey
Petrol.
Walker, Jimmy Slattery, Slatsy Maxey, Jack Britton. Yeah, that's pretty dang solid right there.
Yeah, he
Amazing
did.
career.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Slattery. It
So
was
he did pick
Slattery
up a
that
title.
lost.
Okay, good
Mm.
stuff. Yeah, I need to look into it more.
Mm.
Uh,
I think Slattery was at least at middleweight or something when he fought him.
yeah,
Maybe.
probably. But that's a hell of a listing right there. Slapsy Maxey, he fought everyone too, for sure.
Yeah, Mickey Walker or Toy Bulldog.
Toy Bulldog, yeah, yeah. I love seeing Mickey Walker in there with some of the bigger guys. He's one of those guys who would rise up in weight, man, and certainly, well, a lot of
Yeah.
these guys back then did that, of course. But yeah, just seeing him in there with Max Smelling and Jack Sharkey is pretty crazy. And of course,
Mm.
Smelling, we know Smelling he could punch, and it didn't work out for him
Yeah.
when he did there against Smelling, but you know he
Yeah.
handled it well against Jack Sharkey though. Not too bad,
Sharky.
not
Yeah.
too bad for a middleweight, right?
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Sharky was not a big heavyweight, but still he fought. He could hit hard anyway.
oh yeah, good stuff. Andre Rodriguez said Billy Patrol and Jack Kig Berg were crazy fights.
Yeah.
All right, I
Right.
got to look into that. I know of both of them. Definitely got to look into that fight, right? Or I guess series of fights since they fought more than once. So that'll be
I
cool.
just found my old thread on Billy Petrol. He actually has wins over Tony Canzoneri and Jimmy McLaren. Wow.
Okay, that's pretty nice. Pretty hey,
Yeah.
two all time greats right there that he has some W's over. Got to give him
Yeah.
props for that. So,
Mm.
matter of fact, since we're talking history real quick, I just dropped a video on this guy Joe Grimm, the
Oh
Iron Man
yeah.
Joe Grimm,
So
Iron Man of boxing. He had a bunch of losses, of course, but he was in there with some tough guys like Fitzsimmons, Jack Johnson, Joe Gans, Jack Blackburn, you name it. They couldn't
right.
stop him. They knocked him down a hell of a amount of times, but they could not stop this guy. He's like one of the toughest as far as chins and just I guess overall punch resistance in the history. And that's what he's known for. He couldn't box a lick, basically, is what they were saying. Even though he did get some wins, but man, he was in there with those guys, and he was able to stand. There's usually 6 round fights in Philly, but they
Hmm.
couldn't knock him out for the count for sure, which says a
I'm,
lot.
I must admit I've never heard of him actually. So
Yeah, he had a bunch of
probably,
losses. He lost over
yeah,
100 fights, so he's the
probably
biggest.
that's why.
I guess
Yeah.
you can say the greatest loser in boxing in that sense,
Mm.
or at least one of them. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So Andre Rodriguez said Jimmy McLaren struggled a lot against Patrol. That's what's up
Yeah.
right there. And hey, that speaks volumes. I will say Rodriguez because we know that McLaren was one of the top ever. Given the amount of fights he put in, a lot of work against a lot of great competition. Sub 100, I think, sub 100 fights. So that speaks volumes without a doubt. McLaren, seeing him in there with Barney Ross. I've seen at least the videos that are available on YouTube of those fights, or maybe that fight, but I can't remember how many out there are on there. But I've seen what is out there on the two. I like Barney Ross, of course. He was a
Yeah, he
Marine.
was
Had him featured in the top 8 fighting Marines video that I had there. I had him number 3, I think.
very good fighter, very tough.
Yeah. It certainly
Hall of
was. And
Fame.
of
Yeah.
course, got retired by the great Henry Armstrong.
Mm.
Uh, Andre Rodriguez says he gave Bonnie Ross and Canzoneri tough fights too. Billy was a solid top 25 pound for pound of the 1930s, real solid. Cool,
Yeah,
good stuff. I'm
yeah,
gonna have to check him out more because I have run across him in some videos that I've done, and I remember the boxing librarian, of course, talking about him. So definitely, I know he was a tough guy. It seems like he had if I recall correctly, he had a high number of fights as well. So of course, if you're in there facing
yeah.
top
It was.
competition, that's how you get better as a fighter. So I'd imagine, yeah, he's one who you really look at it. Some of these guys, you look at them, they transpond eras, so they can pretty much be thrown in any era. Even some of the guys that didn't win a world title. So props to them in that regard. So Billy Patrol, good
Yeah.
stuff there. Andre Rodriguez, of course, like talking about that. Talking about the history of things. Boz, I know you're ready to go.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Well, I don't know what your plans are, but
We
I
got an hour. We got an hour 20. We're gonna
20.
talk
Yeah, I
some
guess
history here again at some
we
point.
are good. Yeah, we better not continue down the history lane, or else it's gonna take another half hour to finish this.
Oh yeah, Justo Suarez. Under Rodriguez, real quick, under Rodriguez says you KO Justo Suarez in amazing fashion. Okay, Justo Suarez. Now I know Justo. I think he beat my guy, the Ukrainian featherweight. I did a video on him. A kid something. What is his name? Freaking. I did a video
Berg,
recently. Kid freaking
Kid
Kaplan.
Berg,
Kid Kaplan.
Kaplan. Yeah,
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 I think
not Berg.
Justo Suarez beat him.
All right. What
What
time?
time is it over there, Bob? Says
Well,
Rodolfo.
it's almost 9:30 in the evening.
Oh yeah, it's early, so he's good, Rodolfo. Keep
Yeah,
the
it's
questions
good.
coming. No, I'm
And
just
I'm not going to bed early. I'm not going to
no,
bed.
no, that's good. But
I'm
no,
like
stuff.
a night owl. I go to bed like 3 o'clock in the morning, something.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Usually.
yeah, so you can in theory talk boxing all night, right?
Yeah, yeah, more or less.
Good stuff. But no, no, no. Yeah, we had mentioned that we were gonna go about an hour, so we're a little bit over there, a little bit over an hour. There's always more to come, of course.
Yeah, next
More
week.
history videos to talk about.
Yeah, there's so much that you
Okay, good
discover.
stuff there, Andre. So 8 something,
But
8:28.
you are in UK maybe then,
So
or
I'm yeah, it's
Portugal
3:28,
maybe. I don't
29 where
know.
I'm at.
Yeah.
Rodolfo Rivera says, "Oh well, I'm gonna keep the question coming for Boz then."
You better not watch it now.
Salute to Hardline Boxing Talk. Welcome, thanks for dropping in. Hardline Boxing Talk. It says Dave Shade, mainly welter and middle. You know, we gotta give a little bit of time to talk about this. Yeah, Andre brought up the great Dave Shade. I remember you mentioned him, BL, of course, and that's always great. Getting to hear some of these great historic fighters that are put in front of us. I know you've covered the majority of them. Excuse me, for sure. But of course, the list is never ending.
He is a typical, look at his record, 131 wins and 17 knockouts. So he was a typical all-time
Yeah,
fighter who
yeah,
just boxed.
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so yeah, that's even more miraculous when you have those guys who didn't really have punch power. So they
Yeah.
had to do it. They had to do it with skill. They had
Mm.
to use skill to avoid, taking damage and being knocked out themselves, and
Yeah.
usually going the distance. So think about how all those rounds add up. That's experience right there. That's
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah, some fights looked more like exhibitions, but some others
Oh
did
yeah,
look quite, pretty
yeah.
intense.
Yeah. A number of you factor that in. It's even more fights. In some
Mm.
of the videos I do, sometimes I may
Some
mention
fights
an
are
exhibition or
just.
two of note, but I often don't. But yeah, that's pretty crazy to think about it. But shout out Hardline Boxing Talk dropping in. Appreciate you dropping by. Certainly, everyone go give them a follow. You want to learn about the boxing history and all the statistics to back it. Follow Hardline Boxing Talk. I do so myself. I've learned a ton there myself. So kudos, salute for sure. Keep doing your thing. Want to see more. I want to see more there.
Mhm.
BL, definitely. I'm always looking for the new lives and new videos being dropped in, of course.
Oh. Here's your mom. At the very end, your mom
Never
comes
go
in.
up. Portugal. I got to get to Portugal there, Andre Rodriguez.
Portugal.
My
Nice.
girlfriend, we were gonna come over there because she was gonna have a little uh,
Right.
work duty over there a few years back in Lisbon. And we were looking forward to it, and then it didn't ended up not happening. We had got prepped and everything. That's crazy. But Portugal's nice. I've heard it's a great place. Food's nice. Being just the atmosphere itself, it just seems like a pretty cool place. Shout out to my mom there. Says happy Sunday, son and buys, and happy Resurrection Day. Happy Resurrection Day, Easter, all that good stuff.
Yep.
So thank
Yep.
you. We appreciate you for sure. Hardline said disregards. Hardline said shout out to 86 and his co-host. Appreciate it, Hardline. Definitely. Always good to have you in. We were here talking some of the modern stuff, and then we dove into a little history. Of course, the mentions of Dave Shade, Billy Patrol, etc. And I know that Boz was looking to go take a siesta, I guess. You gonna take a siesta there, Boz?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'll see. Maybe not a siesta, but anyway.
But
Yeah.
no, it's all good. Portugal sounds fun to travel to. Europe in general. I've never been outside the U.S. and Mexico. Good stuff, Rodolfo. I was in Mexico City back in
Yeah.
January for a wedding. It was pretty cool. I've talked to you before about hitting up Mexico. Hey, but Canelo's going to be fighting John Ryder down there in, I guess,
Oh
Guadalajara or
yeah.
somewhere near there. It's
Oh,
going
in
down in
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah.
It'll be a
Thought you
big
said
event.
it. Thought you meant in Portugal. I said, why would be? I was like, why would they be fighting there?
Oh, no, yeah, no, not Portugal. Which, yeah, I don't know.
You know,
It's big fights in Portugal. I bet that's pretty good. Pretty
I
good to
only
see.
know one word in Portuguese, and that's how to say butterfly, and that's don't ask me why. That's a long story.
Cool.
Yeah, borboleta. That's how it's.
Bocboleta, the butterfly. Float like a book.
Yes,
Float like a bocboleta.
yeah. That's because of a title of an San Carlos Santana album was borboleta, and I was like, "What's that? What does that mean?" And I found out. I had to find out.
But yeah, that's good to go.
Mm.
That's what's up. Portugal. Dofo, you will like it here too. Yes, indeed. Portugal's nice. I know it had to be nice. I've heard good things about it, without a doubt. I had a former coworker who was over there not too long ago. Or she might still be over there, actually. Rodolfo says, yeah, those tickets are going to sell out quick for that Canelo fight. I bet. This is the first time he's doing a major fight there in a minute, and that's how he started out. So he was making waves down in Mexico. Then he made his way here to the U.S. And then he became a global superstar. So I don't know if he's fought there since he's been on this global superstar status.
Mm.
Now that I think about it, I think it's Vegas since they usually get a lot of money or backing from the casinos, etc. There, of course. But he's
Sure,
done Dallas,
why not?
Texas as well. He's done the Cowboy Stadium. So props to Canelo on that. Props to Canelo for
Yeah,
taking those fights. It's for the
Sure,
fight
why
fans
not?
when they do those areas, without a doubt. But cool. But yeah, always great stuff there. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
head out here. We're about to hit an hour and 30 minutes. It's been great, without a
Yeah.
doubt, man. So much we could talk about. But we will
Mm.
be back here next week, and who knows? There could be some midweek type stream thing we do. Let's connect, guys. Let's connect to see if we can make it happen. And we can talk about history.
History. Why not? Definitely.
All right, good stuff. But yeah, definitely thanks to everyone who dropped by. Of course, we appreciate you. Thanks for those who will listen on the second return, and we appreciate you as well. And of course, happy boxing all the time, without a doubt. And Hardline Boxing Talk says, nice to hear Patrol talked about good body puncher and combination puncher, a real handful of tough guy. Indeed, there, BLs, without a doubt. And Billy Patrol, yeah, that's something. So we may have to talk about him a bit more next time around here, Bob. I got to look up some more
Mm.
stuff. I've run
The
across him a few
Fargo
times, but I know
Express.
he's a tough guy.
The Fargo Express, his nickname
Fargo
was.
Express. Yes, sir. This is good stuff. But yeah, Andre Rodriguez, great show, guys. Appreciate you, Andre. Appreciate you,
Thank you.
Rodolfo, as well. Of course, shout out to my mom. Shout out to Lane, who was in the building. Hyphy, I know he came through.
Mm.
There were some others that dropped through. I know. Okay, yeah. No, we're good. Oh, yeah. Parth. Appreciate you, Parth, for dropping by as well. But of course, we'll catch you all on the flip side. Have a good one.
Yeah.